Hey, welcome to this episode today where I'm gonna be talking to Camilla Treschow. That was not was that was good. Okay, amazing. And I'm really looking forward to this. Camilla has more than 20 years, almost 25 years experience actually in recruitment and is working with cybersecurity recruitment, IT recruitment, as I understand it. And I was just thinking I met Camilla shortly or briefly at an event. And I was like, I really want to interview her because all of the amazing good ideas and tips she will be able to provide you guys with, I like it's going to be amazing. Without even knowing you very well, I'm sure this is going to be amazing. So welcome so much, Camilla.
Thanks a lot for that great presentation. Now, I just hope that I can live up to those expectations. But
Of course.
uh,
I'm I have no doubt that you can because I heard you talk about this already. So
thanks a lot.
yeah. So can you just give us an idea of like who you are and what it is you actually do? Just a bit more than what I just mentioned.
Yeah, sure. As I mentioned, as you said, my name is Camilla Treschow, and I'm running a company today that is called Treschow and Son. That's my name and my partner Son's name. And we're specialized in recruitment within cybersecurity. And that is a specialization we made in 80, beginning of 18, time passes. But before that, I've been working with recruitment since I graduated from Copenhagen Business School back in 99. So that is, yes, 24 years now. So I've been recruiting within the IT industry for, yeah, a lot of years. It's mainly been related to what you call headhunting and not recruiting. So where a company pay us to find the people they cannot find themselves.
Mm. I think, and that's a really good distinction because I think a lot of people are a bit confused, to be honest, about what headhunting really is. So can we just like real briefly kind of what's the difference between being headhunted and being like talking to a recruiter?
I think just for start, some things that headhunting or executive search or whatever you call it is only on like C-level senior positions, but is actually used also for companies clients for key positions. So it's something that a company pay for in the situation where they cannot attract people by their own channels with their own internal recruiters. Uh, so I don't know if there's a difference. Headhunters tends to be more expensive than normal recruiters, I think, but honestly, I think the process is somehow the same. If a recruiter works for a company and they need to find a new employee for that company for a specific position, some recruiters, there are tons of recruiters, particularly UK based, and some of them are just, like screening people and making a large pool without actually having a position they're recruiting for. So
Mm,
that could be the difference.
okay.
So is there actually a position behind it, or is it just for, yeah,
Okay. So
getting a
is
larger candidate pool and them, but that
to be
needing a
ready when
product?
you get an assignment kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so is there a lot of division in because like I've seen I get like, oh Diana, which recruiters should I reach out to? Who do you know that I could reach out to? All these questions. And I think a very interesting thing to know for the job seeker is there division? Because now you're saying you're working in IT, cybersecurity specifically. So if I reach out to you and say, hey, Camilla, can you help me? The answer will probably be no because you're doing the headhunting part. But in terms of, I'm thinking, is it, um, do you want to be very specific about the recruiters you reach out to in terms of them being focused on the area of expertise you have? Does the question make sense?
Yeah, it does. And actually, this market is really hard to get to grasp or get an idea of because it's so diverse and there's so many recruiters like headhunters. I think to me, it's kind of some kind of the same. You could have one man armies, women, men, uh, having real interesting clients, working for interesting clients. You can have larger corporations. So there's so many. So that actually is a very things to answer if people ask you which recruiters should I reach out to. I think, and we can, that's another topic. I think the main thing you could do as a job seeker is having a really, really spot on specific LinkedIn profile, because all recruiters, headhunters use LinkedIn as their main, let's say, tool to find candidates for positions. It's so much better than any internal job CV database would ever be, because they're randomly, they're not updated. So everyone in that industry, also internal recruiters, are using LinkedIn to search for profiles. So that is actually the best thing to do to be top of mind. And then yeah, I mean, some recruiting agencies are bigger than others, and of course, if they're big, they have a lot of clients and they have a lot of activity. So I mean, that would make them also relevant. But small ones can also be relevant.
Okay,
And
so
few are very specialized, but a lot of them also. It's a question. I mean, recruiting and headhunting is a really really tough business. So we and they all need to survive, and they're taking in assignments that are maybe not within their specialty area, but it's just like a yeah, pays
so
the
in
salaries.
general, just reach out and then see what the recruiter says.
See what they say. Yeah, I
Yeah.
would, I would, I would do that. I wouldn't hesitate. I mean, I would maybe see if they have a serious homepage.
Mm.
Is it Danish based or is it UK based? UK headhunters are working in another manner. So to say it nicely, politely. Now we're talking about getting jobs in Denmark, and there I would definitely focus on headhunters, recruiters having an address and a company in Denmark. And then I would look at, they tend to have people and the employees on the homepage. So I would just like see who would be relevant there to reach out to.
Mm. Okay, that's amazing because that would have been one of my questions as well about UK based versus Danish based because I've also heard that it's not the best necessarily. And it's one of the things where I'm also like, when you're listening to advice on job seeking for the Danish market, listen to people who know the Danish market because we just do things differently in Denmark. It is a lot of different ways that we do things compared to other places. I've noticed.
Yeah, it's another market. I mean, in Denmark, it's so difficult to get rid of people in Sweden as well compared to UK or US or United States. So we are more throughout. We have longer processes. We tend to put people through personality analysis or whatever. But I think we're more, the UK market is also a contractor market, so it's more like in and out, and it's not a big consequence of hiring the wrong people. And in Denmark, it's like there's a lot of small companies in Denmark, so you become kind of part of family. So HR and hiring managers are really into like finding the right match, just not someone, but someone who's also figuring out there's a chemistry. And yeah, so that's another topic. That's how at interview, in the interview process, you can be asked questions about quite personal questions, and being ready to answer those questions. And it's not weird in Denmark. It's actually because you just want to know who you
Yeah.
are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I want to go back to the hiring process, but I do want to also dive into what you say about LinkedIn, first of all. And before I ask you about your best advice on LinkedIn, I also just want to say that I am providing a course on LinkedIn starting in the beginning of January. So if you're interested in, as a viewer here, a listener, and doing a LinkedIn course or making your LinkedIn profile up to speed and ready, then connect with me on LinkedIn. Back to you, Camilla. So, what is your best advice when we're looking at LinkedIn? So, you're saying like everybody uses LinkedIn, it's really important, but so what's the best thing you can do and be focused on your LinkedIn profile?
LinkedIn is it's like a search engine for us. So of course, like imagine you needed to find a product, the product being you, but a
Yeah.
product on the internet. What would you Google for? So that's professional criteria. So it's a question of having keywords that reflects the both. And this is another thing. So does it need to reflect the things you've been working with or the things you want to work with? And it can be a combination. And that's the challenge, looking into transferring to Denmark and maybe to another area of working with. So what could you write on LinkedIn? And how is your background relevant for the kind of jobs you are interested in? Because on LinkedIn, you are not obliged to only write what you've been doing. You can also write what you would like to do, and that's still keywords. But being a nice person and being, like a good manager or being responsible or whatever, that's not relevant on LinkedIn, because that's relevant. That could be a C of someone working in finance, or someone working in sales, or someone working in whatever. So we would never find you on that. We need to find you on your specific knowledge of a big, yeah, specific theme. So that's what needs to be a keyword. It's keyword searching,
Yeah.
and then having as many keywords as possible in the headers and in the titles, because it's optimized towards titles.
Mm,
And the more
amazing.
times they are there, the better.
Yeah. So even in when I say, so I previously worked with Job Index, then when I say I was a supervisor, but even there having like, oh, it's not just supervisor, it's actually having more words in that title than just the title of the job.
Supervisor is a super bad word,
Yeah,
or
I
head
know.
of or manager or whatever, because or consultant, or like all those, like that could be supervisor of anything. So
Yeah.
supervisor of what?
Yeah.
So it would be exactly be, I mean, still having supervisor, of course, but then minor or whatever, if
Yeah.
business line or whatever, and then some kind of profession, yeah, things,
Attached to
whatever
it.
kind of team attached to it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And so you're basically searching more on hard skills than soft skills is also what I'm
Yeah,
hearing.
not
Like,
we're not searching on soft skills, because they are the I mean, it's like if you search for soft skills, or do that, then you'll have like 1,000 hits coming up, and you don't want to go through 1,000 hits. You want to have this 100 hits that is relevant, and that is based on hard skills.
yeah.
Based on
Okay.
a,
That's
and
amazing.
then if you want, if you're in the situation where you are want to change the topic or area with, then you need to reach out to you or someone else that can advise in how to make those skills you had transferable. So what does that mean in the new world?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing, right? Because sometimes it can be hard to see yourself, to be honest. I see
Hmm.
a lot of people who are like, I cannot do anything else. I've done this my entire career, or this is what I've studied, and then kind of opening that up and figuring out how can we word this in a way that the transferable skills
Yeah,
actually make sense
exactly.
to what you want to
Yeah,
do
but
going
that's
forward.
just one theme in itself, is how to make things transferable and how to translate it onto the things you want to work with.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a
And
challenge.
I think
A good,
it
that's a
is.
good, it's a good exercise, I would call it.
Yes, yes, thank you. Exactly. And I think you're making a great point, and this is also what I always encourage people to do, remembering that of course we it's your LinkedIn is more than just a CV. Your LinkedIn is also a, hey, what do you want to do in your career going forward? It's not just, hey, I've been doing this and this is what I see a lot of people doing. They're just putting in their
Mm,
CV and they're not
exactly.
thinking about what do
Good
I want to
point.
do going forward. And the
Yeah,
thing is, if you don't want to be doing what you have been doing before, then the recruiters are not going to find you on what you want to be doing because you
exactly.
haven't, like, they don't, or you guys don't necessarily make that connection.
Mm.
It's up to yourself to actually make that connection so that you'll be found in the searches for what you want to be doing.
And then it's about writing posts or liking things or following things that interest you, because then you would show up in those kind of searches.
How much does the activity count for you? So one thing is having a great profile, but then actually being active either by posting yourself or commenting or liking other people's comments and stuff.
That is actually something that's a part of that answer. I really don't know, because I'm not looking at it as the post itself, but I think that behind this, the mechanism in LinkedIn, so if you're posting, you have an activities, as it is with all search optimization, so that
Yeah,
makes you pop up earlier.
yeah,
So I'm not, it doesn't make a difference that you write the post or not, but it makes a difference whether you are in the top 50
yeah,
in my search, and that might help you to be in the top 50
yeah,
on a topic that you're actually writing about it. So
yeah.
in that sense, it makes sense.
So with the algorithm, will prioritize you if
Exactly.
you're more active on
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
profile or on
I'm
the
not a
platform.
specialist in that. I just know that it works that way somehow.
It,
But
yeah, it does.
um, yeah, thanks.
Amazing. I want to dive into also the hiring process. So like you're saying, you have a lot of experience in this. And can you take me through like what's your experience when people have a good process? What have they done before? Like what does it seem like they've done to get to the interview? When is it that they actually get the interview? Does the question make sense?
I'm not sure, but I think one thing, I mean, this, I think we need to talk about the CV because that is kind of what is, I mean, that is what brings you the CV either network so that you have a relation that invites you
Mm.
to so the two things. And just to get my, there are as many opinions about CVs as there are kind of
There are
recruiters, I
people.
think, people. My personal opinion is I don't matter if it, of course, shouldn't be 10 pages, but it doesn't have to be 1 and 2 pages. The thing is, like, all recruiters are looking for information, so they're not interested in, sorry to say, they're not interested in you and your story, but they are having, like, they're looking for someone, a person that can fill in a specific role with some specific requirements. So when you're reading the CV, you're searching for information that is relevant for that position. So therefore, a good advice is sometimes to have different versions of the CV if you're looking for different kinds of jobs. Let's say you had a lot of management experience, but that's not necessary for you in the future. But then it shouldn't be in the top of the CV if it's a individual contributor position within something. So I mean, it's about back to school reading texts when you had like Danish, English, or whatever you had. So reading the text in the job ad, and we go, okay, what are they actually asking for here? And then what seems to be most important needs to be prioritized in your CV and ranked so it's in the beginning. Because if it comes like on page 4, you just like
You never
got
get to
no
it.
option, no get to it. But apart from that, whether it's 3, 4, 5 pages, maybe not more, as long as it's a good structure and I can find the information easily, then I don't mind how long it is. But I'm looking for information, and that, I mean, in my opinion, is it's too bad to leave out information to get it under a page or 2 pages. So of course,
Yeah.
depending on whether you have 20 years experience or 4 years experience, I mean, that
Yeah.
should be a difference.
I think there's also a
That's one
difference
thing.
here whether you're on sea level or you're just for a common, like normal, not sea level job
Yeah,
because yeah,
exactly. But even though you're proud of an experience you had, I think you've been working with on sea level or whatever. I mean, if that is not relevant, so I mean, yeah, being
I
proud of
agree.
it is good, but it shouldn't be kind of what is
Main
the first
focus.
first what the information I see first as a reader.
I actually want to ask you something in that context because I did something with my CVs that I haven't seen anyone else do quite in that way, but I kind of decided that I wanted it to do it and it seemed to work well for me. So instead of doing, because usually you'll see like people will have either a competence-based CV where they'll kind of put their competences and then they'll just under that do like in short their experiences, or they'll have an experienced like reverse chronological normal CV where they're like saying this is either starting with their experience and then their education and so on and so forth. What I did, other than having the profile text in the top, that I very much encourage people to do as well, but then I did a CV where I said, okay, I'm going to start with relevant experience. And then I'm
Hmm.
going to have other experience. So what I did, I mixed up everything. So I had under relevant experience for me, that was work experience, that was courses, that was education, that was everything that I'd done that I deemed relevant for the job I was applying for. And then everything else that was like, okay, so I know it doesn't look super good to have two large holes and stuff. So everything else kind of got under other, which also gave kind of an idea of who I am as a person, of course, that. But
Yeah,
would you value a CV like that versus the
it's
standard ones?
I think it makes sense to have the relevant thing on the top. I think one thing important thing not to miss out is the I mean, to make it easy for me to follow the
Yeah,
chronological things, because of course, I mean, having 2 periods where it didn't work, I mean, okay, it could be parent leave, it could be whatever. That's fair. I mean, or following a husband to a country or whatever. But that just needs to be a good explanation, because of course we're not interested, often not interested in people that has been out of work for several years, or that has a lot of short, I mean, having a lot of short employments, that could be good explanation, but then it has to be by choice. I decided to work for those
Yeah.
5 years as temporary employed, whatever, because then it's a good reason.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so we are a bit obsessed about the that we easily can follow the chronological development in
Yeah.
your career.
Oh, that's
So that
interesting how to
is
kind of
that is
put it up then.
yeah. But
Yeah.
a combo of, I mean, I really I haven't seen a CV with that, but it makes sense to have kind of the relevant and then the less relevant.
See, my thought about it, because I know that the whole timeline can be an issue. It was still reverse chronological order with the relevant and then the not relevant. So
Yeah,
within each section, it was still in reverse chronological order. My thought around it has been that I would rather put the things on top that would make me the good candidate and have,
yeah,
instead of having to go down to page 3 or 4 or how many ever
yeah.
pages, right?
The
Um,
the thing about competence-based CVs, oh no, that's not what you're talking about, but it is that in Denmark, at least, it makes a huge difference. So for some reason, where do you have the competence from? Is it from a little company or from a big international company, or is it like a public, or is it a private sector? So that's why just competence-based is, I wouldn't normally advise it, because it really makes sense whether it was from, like, yeah, a big international corporation
yeah,
or from a five people company.
yeah,
And
makes
then
sense.
as well, if you are searching from abroad, which is part of your audience here, I mean, we probably don't have any clue what kind of companies you worked in a country we don't know. So there it makes sense to guide the reader in saying, like, the name of the company, and then a industry could be like telco, yeah.
Yeah,
So industry size, but just, like a short information
a little bit of
about
extra
about
information. Yeah,
yeah, exactly, about the company.
yeah, that makes a lot of sense actually to to put that in there as well. But
Yeah,
it's
particularly
actually
if you're
interesting.
applying for, let's say, but it's a perception we have in Denmark. I'm not completely. It's not my opinion, but that's
It's
how
okay.
company thinks, is that if you're searching for a job in a small company, then it is relevant if you have experience from a small company
Mm,
and not just working for Deutsche Bank or whatever. Yeah,
yeah. Yeah, and I think I can see it. I don't know if I agree or not, but I can see that if you've had, let's say you've worked in a startup and there's like 20 people and you've been the head of HR, then like, but you wouldn't, it would not be the same as applying for a job at Novo Nordisk as head of HR, right? So I
exactly.
get kind of why the companies, and it's the same. You would also, if someone who's been the head of HR at Novo applies for a startup, it's like you're gonna get bored out of your mind in like
Yeah,
2 days kind of thing, or at least being very
exactly.
specific about getting to know why is it that you want to make this change, right? And even though you had the head of HR in a 20 people company, then you might not, that might not be the role that you're that you're going into in a big corporation.
Yeah.
So
That's a perception that you need to like work around, and there's another perception as well in Denmark, and that is, it's not, we don't regard it as natural to step down, unfortunately,
no,
because there's a lot of good reasons for stepping down. For, let's say, I mean, you have been a manager and you're fed up by one-to-ones and whatever, so you actually would just really appreciate having a job as an individual contributor or whatever in a smaller company. But you really need to highlight why you are doing that, stepping down, because in Denmark you would just assume, yeah, that's good, she's got that job, or he's got that job until they find a more suitable
so
on the
how
sea
would
level.
I convince you in terms of that? So I really want a job that's on either I'm moving a bit to the side or I'm even moving a bit down. How would I
Yeah,
convince you that I'm actually interested in doing this and interested and staying at that level?
But just by really mentioning in the beginning, in the extreme beginning, saying after 5 years at whatever 10 years at that level, I decided that really motivate what really motivates me is working close to clients or working like with whatever it could be. So
Mm,
yeah, why I decided that this kind of role is
yeah, more
what motivates
manageable.
me. So it's just important to mention it, but just
Okay.
to highlight it.
If we're going back to kind of the
It's
CV
the
and
motivation. Sorry to transform. It's rather, is it a motivation away from, or is it against? So it, as a reader, you would love to see, okay, you really have a motivation for the job I'm offering or seeing. So yeah,
yeah, so you want to be
I'm not living
motivated towards that instead of
towards
away
something
from what
instead
you're
of
doing
away
at the
from.
moment.
Yeah.
That makes sense. That's actually a lot of sense. So, okay, so let's say I found this job description and I'm like, ooh, interesting. There's a recruiter connected to this. How much do I get for calling you and asking questions?
You get a lot actually, but I mean, you need to. I mean, particularly if you ask questions that is focused on saving my time, on not spending time on applications that doesn't make sense. So what doesn't work is people saying, okay, I've seen this job, could you tell me more about it? I would be like, no. I would be like, could you be more specific? What do you want to know? So that doesn't work.
Mm,
But definitely, if, I mean, saying like I saw this job post, I read this and this experience is stated as well. Map. I'm just saying like I'm just calling to make sure I'm not wasting anyone's time. So that's why I want to make sure if it makes sense I'm applying for it. It's specified that you need this and this experience. I'm not having that, but I'm having that another experience. So that kind of questions would be, I mean, questions around, is it relevant that I'm applying for the job
mm,
with this background I have? Or saying, as I read, you ask for this specific background. I'm not having exactly that, but I have, like the other one, could that be relevant? So kind
mm.
of that kind of dialogue would be relevant and interesting. I would be appreciated.
That's very helpful, actually. Thank you.
But like asking, oh, could you tell me about the company's overall strategy or whatever? It's just like, yeah, I could, but I mean,
Go on the internet, Google it.
yeah, something like that. Information you could find on the internet, or yeah.
Yeah. What about language? So my impression is very much that in IT, cybersecurity, your area of expertise, Danish is not really as important. I might be wrong, but
Danish is still important in Denmark. Most companies, amazingly. I think an area where it's not important is life science. Novo Nordisk, yeah, life science companies tends to be, that isn't a problem. And then smaller startup companies, but the traditional Danish companies, they still have a requirement for Danish often for
okay.
some funny reason.
Yeah, it makes no
I don't
sense
get it.
often.
I don't get it, but
Me
it's just the way
neither.
it is.
But it is also one of the advices I give, even people who reach out to me who are not in Denmark yet and are like, what's the most important thing I can do before coming here? It's like, start learning Danish. It doesn't even like you
And I
just
think important on conversational level, because it really sounds odd, but companies, uh, the explanation is, but we speak Danish at lunch, so they will feel outside. They won't feel involved and integrated because we're not gonna speak English around lunch in the
Mm,
canteen. So it is actually Danish on conversational level, because most documentation in IT, in cyber, and a lot of things is English. So not, you don't need to write fluent English, Danish,
Danish.
or Danish. Yeah, it's actually Danish on conversational level.
Yeah.
So that you can go and shop in the grocery, whatever. Yeah,
Yeah.
is enough actually.
I think it's very important in terms of you also mentioned it a little bit earlier about being that we in Denmark also look at the more personal behind the skills when we hire. So we ask a bit maybe more personal questions at the interview. So can you maybe give a bit more on that in terms of what your experience on how the job interview differs and what is it that's so different about the job interview in Denmark?
Now, I haven't tried job interviews outside Denmark much. We do have international clients, but in Denmark, I mean, a hiring manager would typically be an HR and a hiring manager being there, and they could start out by saying like, "Hey, that's a cool drinking thing." They would introduce themselves, saying like, "I'm Anders, and I've been working here for whatever, and then I'm 42 years old. I'm married. I'm living there and there. We've got 3 kids, and in my spare time, I'm running, biking, doing gardening, or whatever. And what about you? Who are you?" And then they would expect you to say like some of the same, not going through your entire professional career in that, because they would typically interviews are very different. But it could be this way where they would say like, "We read your resume, and we'll have questions to that afterwards." But they would be like, "Okay, I just recently moved to Denmark with my husband, and yeah, I have a master in psychology, and I've been working with HR my entire life, but now we are settling down in Denmark, and we got 2 kids and a dog, and but like, just so that beginning being as a talking about yourself in that manner, presenting yourself would be odd if you were not don't want to do that introduction at all. Um, and then it could be, of course, questions like strengths and weaknesses. You don't have them that often, but it could be like, what are your values? I mean, who are you as a person? What can we expect from you? It could be like, what do you expect from me as a manager? I mean, how do I support you in your role? And that's not by, like providing with information. That is, I'm not. Maybe not the most structured person, so I need a manager who's good at prioritizing my. I think another thing about Denmark is, I'm not saying we're obsessed about weaknesses at all, but we regard weaknesses as something that we need to work with. So when I'm also for myself in my team, uh, we have one in our team that is awful at asking for help. So I know that she's not, I mean, not before she's burned out. So I know, and we have a dialogue on that. So, like, okay, sweet, something, whatever the person is called, uh, but I can help there. So that is what managers in Denmark, that is why many people actually love working in Denmark, is like we've got people as a person with weaknesses. So we want people to succeed, and we can only make them succeed if we know where you're weak or where you have your challenges. So we want to talk about them.
Mm,
So be honest about that. I mean,
yeah.
okay, I'm awful with details, or I'm a perfectionist, so you need to stop me. So I'm not working all the time with things that are not relevant, because I'm searching for 100% where 80% is enough.
Yeah. And I
Talk about your
think
weakness.
that's important in terms of when you're asked about your weaknesses in a job interview. It's not like we want to know your weaknesses so we can actually like hammer down on them. It's a we want to know your weaknesses so that we can
Yeah.
actually help you overcome them so that you can be a better employee, so that we can actually help you be a full person at the job where we can help you
Succeed
develop.
in a job so the
Yeah.
manager can support you. I mean, yeah, and make you succeed. So and like it happens quite often, particularly when it's non-Danish candidates we have, like, and then they say like, I need to say something. I'm impatient. Okay. Okay, but then I would ask her, so why is that a weakness? I mean, it could also be a strength. So tell me why, and then you would just dig into. So you could probably feel that that's weird, that's odd. I mean, what do they want here? But
Mm.
that's just because that's not. I mean, why is it a weakness?
Yeah.
Strengths and weaknesses are strengths could be weaknesses, and weaknesses can be strengths. So
Yeah.
it's kind of two sides of the same thing.
It's the same with like perfectionism. Well, it can be
Yeah,
a strength in some parts, but it can definitely also be a weakness, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I think that's a good point to also bring home that it's you need to actually be able to explain why, because we're not looking for the fake weaknesses.
Mm,
What I usually say to people is that your weakness should not be the main part of the job then, because that makes no sense. Then you shouldn't have
You
applied in
hate
the first
working with
place.
details, and it's a
Yeah.
job where it's all about details. No, then it's not
Yeah,
going to be a
no,
match.
but it should still, it's something that's kind of in the outskirts of what you're going to be doing. It's
Yeah.
okay that it's there because it should not be something that's totally irrelevant either. So there's this balance of figuring out where is what in this context, of course.
And this is why we off a lot of recruitment processes. You will meet personality tests or analysis, and this is not just to have like this is a result of you, so we cannot use you. It is supposed to be used as a dialogue tool to talk about saying, okay, I can see you score pretty low on structure. So how do you work with that? What kind of systems do you need? And how do we need to support you? Since you're not that structured, unless it's a position where it's all about structure, of course, then it's not like
Yeah.
maybe the best. But
And that's
I mean,
also
it's a sales
why,
position and you are completely introverted. So I think we
yeah.
need to talk about that. I mean,
But this is also why you shouldn't lie or try to answer the right answer or type the right answer in these tests in terms of what you think the company needs, because that's not what it's about. This is about who are you to figure out,
yeah.
will you match the position, and also how can we help you match the position? Because if you're at a point in the interview process where you get a personality test, they usually think that you can do the job on a like skills level, right?
We would not
So
be there. We would not waste time on a personality test if they didn't believe that that was a match. I mean,
exactly. So
uh,
it's like if you go into that thinking, okay, so I'm already a match on the skills level and for the job. Now we're just gonna figure out, do I match the team? Do I match the position? Because that is so important also for long-term growth of yourself and of the team and what we can provide. And if we don't match the team, if we don't match the position, then if we get the job, and this is where the lying or the not answering truthful to yourself in these tests comes in, because if you end up doing that, like lying in them or not answering truthfully, then you might get the job, but I promise you, you're going to be very unhappy in that job very fast because you don't match it. You don't
yeah.
fit in. And
And the people that for some reason I know it's because people are insecure about why these personality tests, but you see people that are trying to think, what should I answer here, and then answers in that manner to figure, because of course, if you're a bit intelligent, you can see like, oh, I should probably answer I'm extroverted, even though I'm not, since it's an extrovert position. Then it just becomes a really odd conversation and feedback session on it. So I think being aware of who you are and your weaknesses, that is what we appreciate in Denmark. This being authentic. Yeah. So, but you're right. Yeah. I mean, it should be a job where you have the personality, skills, and traits to succeed and thrive. And yeah.
yeah, and you also want to be yourself, right? You don't want to have a
Yeah.
job where you can't be yourself. So,
No,
yeah.
exactly.
Is there anything here you think that we have not covered? That any advice, anything where you're like, this could be really important in terms of internationals looking into applying for jobs in Denmark?
Networking is a thing, of course. Get out and meet people, because jobs are, of course, some jobs are posted, but a lot of jobs are not posted. Um, and for sure, I mean, recruitment process is something that I mean, no one actually loves to receive 100 resumes and read through them and have to send all that administration stuff in replying and rejecting and all that things. So if someone knows someone who could be recommended, then that's the way a lot of jobs go. I don't longer have, I used to have a lot of statistics on that, but I don't have that anymore. But it's still a lot of jobs that goes to kind of relations.
Mm.
So it's really, networking is really important, and also use, how do you do that and how do you use your network? Just going out and drinking coffee with people, I mean, that's not necessarily enough. It is also asking people, could you, I mean, I'm really interested in working for what is whatever. Do you know someone there, and can they help you? So be a bit, I mean, don't be afraid of asking for help, and being very specific about what actually you need help to get an interview or a coffee meeting with someone in the company.
Mm. I think that's amazing. I totally agree. Networking is so, so important. And often we would get jobs not with our direct network, but with our network's network, right? Like you're saying, like, who should I talk to? Who is it? And having your network
Yeah,
be your ambassadors and having their ears and eyes open for possible opportunities for you as well. I
yeah.
think that's really important.
And then having, I hate that word of like elevator pitch. That's not what I mean, but I mean knowing, because with if then you would ask. I mean, people are in general really helpful. So like, yeah, sure, sure, I don't mind, but what do you want to do? I mean, what kind of job do you want to have? And there you need to. It doesn't have to be kind of only one. Like, I want to be a HR manager, or I want to be like a research analyst, or I want to be work with AI, but you need to guide people so they can help you, because otherwise it's just like, yeah, you're a nice person, but do you want to work in IT or in finance, or what I mean, what exactly?
Yeah.
So you need to have a good kind of way of phrasing the things you want to work with. Okay.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's two or three different things. I mean, as long as it's not like completely
Completely
opposite to each
different.
other. Yeah,
Yeah.
completely different.
Makes sense. Camilla, thank you. This has been so interesting. If people want to kind of follow you or get in contact with you, where would they be able to do that?
LinkedIn.
Yeah, I
Yeah, my
will
LinkedIn
share
profile.
your, I will share that link in the notes. And then I just want to say thank you so much for joining me today for this interview. I think
You're
it's
welcome.
been really interesting.